Colonel Marotto, thanks for being with us on this special interview with the latest developments. General Sirwan Barzani from Peshmerga warned from new terrorist attacks that ISIS is preparing. He said that they got intel information about these attacks. General Barzani said also that the operations conducted by coalition last 2 weeks weakened the terrorist organization, but now it's back and activating again. What is ISIS preparing and what are its targets?
Well, thanks for having me. I can't speak for ISIS, but what I can tell you is that Daesh is territorially defeated, but it's resilient and it remains a serious threat to Iraq and the rest of the world. So they haven't given up. They're very tough, but the coalition and our security partners, the ISF, the SDF, and the Peshmerga, will continue to pursue Daesh and pursue any Daesh remnants that are in Iraq and Syria. And I'd just like to say this, that the coalition is in Iraq at the invitation of the government of Iraq, and we respect the sovereignty of Iraq, and our mission is to defeat Daesh and any Daesh remnants. That's it. And that's what we're doing, and we'll continue to assist the ISF, the Peshmerga, and the SDF. Now, our focus is shifting in the last year on our mission. It remains the same, defeat Daesh, but the coalition has shifted focus from like training at the individual ISF soldier level to at a higher level, at a strategic and operational. And that's what we're doing right now with the ISF. So we've gone from being at Iraqi facility at Besmaya or at Taji, where coalition soldiers were training the Iraqi soldier how to enter a room, how to clear a room, how to shoot, move, and maneuver. The Iraqis are doing that themselves. And that shows a great success that the Iraqis are having now at this point of the war against Daesh, that they are training themselves. And the coalition is providing the ISF with intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, logistics, ammunition, and air power when they request it. So it's a good news story for the ISF because the ISF is in the lead and taking the fight to Daesh and beating Daesh. Because when I was here, the first time I was here, and
Colonel Marotto, less than 24 hours ago, you tweeted that between March and April, you said exactly, our partners in Iraq and Syria completed 13 operations against Daesh, preventing 7 terrorists from committing acts of terror. We've been hearing about these operations from more than 2 years since Mr. Trump announced the end of the territory of ISIS. Why ISIS is still active? Not only that, I've been in Syria and Iraq 2 months ago, and ISIS isn't only active, it was able to reorganize its cells again and recruit new people.
Well, you know, Daesh continues to pursue an insurgency with hit-and-run tactics, murder, assassinations, kidnappings, and criminal activities which seek to undermine the progress of liberated areas towards stabilization. So that being said, you know, CJTF OIR has not observed any indication of a resurgence of Daesh. Daesh is not about to retake Mosul, for example. They can't do it. Historic numbers.
What can they do exactly now? What can they do exactly?
I just told you. I just told you what they can do, and what they're doing is hit and run tactics. They're at an insurgency level. They're murdering. They're assassinating people. They're kidnapping. They're doing criminal activities to finance their terrorism and that poisonous ideology. That's what they can do. But the ISF, along with the coalition, continues this relentless pressure on Daesh and Daesh remnants. Now, again, you know, Daesh is still there. Daesh is resilient. And the future is not going to be bloodless in Iraq as long as Daesh is here. And the ISF, in the lead now, fighting Daesh, will continue to pursue Daesh and Daesh remnants.
Colonel, let's talk about the situation in Iraq. ISIS is finding a safe haven in the mountains of Karachok, Hamreen, and other areas where there's difficult terrains. This terrorist group is also taking advantage of the buffer zone between Iraqi forces and the Peshmerga, the Peshmerga and the Iraqi forces. And how's the coalition working also to bring closer together the Peshmerga and Iraqi forces? That's number one. Number two, and how much ISIS is benefiting from the political divergence between them. I mean, how they are benefiting from the political problems and security gaps and filling the vacuum with terrorism.
Okay, I'll answer number two first because I don't talk politics. All I talk is the defeat Daesh mission from OIR. I'll tell you this, it is telling that the so-called caliphate has gone from 110,000 square kilometers and 8 million people to tunnels and caves and deserts. It's very telling, and the success the ISF has had against Daesh. Now, what the coalition has had a goal for years is this coordination to develop between the KSF and the ISF to the point that there's no sanctuary for Daesh fighters. So we're talking about the Kurdistan coordination line. There is that gap there that Daesh can move through. The coalition has supported establishing coordination centers along the KCL, and we commend the improving relationship and renewed willingness to coordinate on the part of the KRG and the GOI and those security forces. So they have coordinated to them, and the Prime Minister has spoken about this, that there's going to be this coordination. Again, the coalition supports that, and that's the basic thing we can do is support that. We believe that to achieve long-term security and stability in Iraq, it's important that there be this greater liaison, establishing 4 coordination centers along the KCL in Diyala, Kirkuk, Makmur, and Nineveh. So we believe that the two sides are coming together. They believe this is important, and we support that. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we've been told that ISIS, especially in Iraq, has a proactive intelligence over the Iraqi forces and coalition, and this is the reason for the failure of some operations, and even it makes it probably harder to tackle these militants. How can ISIS do that? What's happening exactly?
Well, I don't know. I know this, that the coalition has decimated ISIS intelligence, finance, propaganda, and they'll continue the ISF and the Peshmerga.
We'll move to talk about the coalitions and U.S. role in with your partners in Syria, which are the SDF. You are still committed to working with them, still training them. Many operations against ISIS sleeping cells are being done under the supervision and even with the participation of elite special forces in some raids. This job is taking only the military side and why the coalition isn't working on these aspects?
Well, I don't accept that premise because the coalition in northeast Syria, working with the SDF, has provided some stability and security. The SDF is doing a really good job in northeast Syria. So I've been up there, and it's not the greatest place, but there is somewhat some security and stability up there. Now, Daesh's poisonous ideology, it's not going to come back up there because the people reject that poisonous ideology. And the coalition will continue to support the SDF.
Yeah, but I'm talking about different things.
We'll continue to go after them.
Yeah, you said you've been there. I've been there too. But I've lived between the people there. I've experienced how dire their lives
are.
What can we do for this part?
Let me remind you, our mission is to defeat Daesh. right? And that's what we're going after, is defeat Daesh and Daesh remnants. Now, what the coalition and the SDF is doing is providing time and space for NGOs and the international community to come in there and help that region. It's beyond the scope of the SDF and especially the OIR to do anything else other than military. That is our mission, all right? So defeat Daesh remnants. We provide the time and the space for NGOs and the international community to come in and help out. Because once we have stability and security, then you'll have economic growth.
I believe you also watched my latest reporting from AlHol Camp in Al-Hasaka. A week after that report was broadcasted, SDF and Asayish launched an operation inside the camp and captured many ISIS leaders there. You also tweeted about it, but the camp has a bigger problem. Thousands of kids are being raised without education. They are being taught the ideology of ISIS. Al-Hol is like a training camp for ISIS cubs. In addition, many residents in the camp are still contacting ISIS militants and leaders in other areas and even in their countries too. First of all, can you brief us on what's happening in Al-Hol Camp and the situation there? That's number one. Second, to their crisis, what are you doing to limit ISIS's ability to spread its ideology and recruit people?
Okay, first I want to say that the coalition, OIR, does not run the detention facilities or IDP camps in Northeast Syria. They're run by the SDF, all right? So we support the SDF, just like we support the Peshmerga and we support the ISF, but we don't run the detention facilities or IDP camps. Now, that opts the safety and security for the residents and NGOs while degrading and disrupting Daesh activities. So that's what the coalition can do, all right, is continue to support the SDF and allow that stability and that security to allow the residents and the NGOs to come in there and just degrade and disrupt Daesh activities. Now, you and I agree that it is an indoctrination camp for those young kids from those Daesh widows. But again, it's beyond the scope of OIR to do that. So what we're going to do is, again, provide that time and space working with the SDF because they're in charge of the camps and detention facilities. But it's beyond the scope of OIR and the SDF to run those. So again, we want that stability, we want that security, and we want the NGOs and the international community to come in and help out. That's probably the best way that can solve the problems of the IDP camps and the detention facilities.
Yeah, now we will move to talking about how ISIS cells are working now. What do they want exactly? And I don't want you to talk on their behalf. I want you to tell us about the information you have, the intel information you have. Where are they operating exactly? Where, given the cells' decentralization?
Well, I don't believe their central command is strong because they've had a lot of issues with their command. Just recently, we took out Baghdadi, and he's gone. Another commander, we took out Baghdadi, and he's gone. Another commander, I sent out a bunch of tweets about him from the Global Coalition that he had turned on his own people. So they have a lot of issues with their leadership and not trusting each other. Now, where are they getting their money? They're getting the money through kidnappings, extortion, assassinations, criminal activities. Where are they at? I think it's tunnels and caves in the Makmur Mountains and deserts. That's about it.
The coalition is fighting ISIS. On the other hand, this coalition bases and supply lines are being targeted by Iranian-backed militias in Erbil, Baghdad airport. When are you planning to retaliate? President Biden already ordered, and even the US troops conducted airstrikes on the Iranian bases in Syria after these militias fired rockets on Erbil airport. But is that enough? And what will happen if an American soldier is killed?
Okay. I don't speak for President Biden. I don't speak for the Department of Defense. I don't speak for the Department of State. I speak for OIR. Now, that being said, there is a misconception that Daesh or these outlaw militia groups or these gangs are attacking U.S. convoys, bringing supplies to U.S. bases in Iraq. That's not correct. All right. These outlaw militia groups or outlaw gangs, they're attacking Iraqi contracted civilian logistic convoys driven by Iraqi civilians who are just trying to make a living. All right. This equipment that's being hauled, it's mainly for the ISF. It's through the CTEF program where the U.S. has provided, granted, gifted this equipment to the ISF. The ISF has put it on civilian convoys, trucks driven by Iraqis to their bases. There's no U.S. bases in Iraq. Coalition forces are guests on Iraqi facilities in Iraq. So this equipment goes on these Iraqi convoys and are attacked by outlaw militia groups or these gangs. And all they're doing is hurting the Iraqis because each attack against the government of Iraq, the KRG, the coalition, it undermines the authority of Iraqi institutions, the rule of law, and Iraqi national sovereignty. So that's the misconception. And the latest I have is about 5% of all the convoys that are hit by IEDs or attacked by these outlaw militia groups or these gangs. That's it, 5%. And most of the time, it's slight damage, and that convoy or that truck, that semi, continues on his mission to provide that equipment to the IS.
Colonel Marotto, you didn't answer me about what if an American soldier is killed?
Well, let me say this about these outlaw militia groups or these gangs firing indirect fire at Iraqi bases where coalition soldiers are at. All right. Since September, the outlaw militia group, these gangs, have killed more Iraqi citizens, civilians, than they have killed coalition troops. It was back in September where they fired during the day. I think it was about...
And now we will go to our last question. How much the Iranian militias are giving ISIS a strong argument to build on and promote extremism against the Shiite militias' actions?
Well, you know what? Yes. I'll refer you to CENTCOM about the Iranian aligned militia groups. How about that?
It will be great. Colonel Marotto, thanks a lot for this interview. Thanks for your time with us.